Good afternoon, Judge Cleve, and we welcome you, your appearance here today, and we're ready for your opening remarks. It's getting late, but go ahead.
Thank you, and good afternoon to everyone. As with anyone who's applied for this position, there are a number of reasons that go into that. I can tell you, with respect to me, the bedrock reason is deep respect and concern for the judicial branch and its work that has been developed over the last 17 years as a practicing lawyer and 12 and a half years as a district court judge. We have now and have had for a long time a first-rate judiciary. This is due in no small part to the merit-based selection system that Iowans wisely chose by constitutional amendment in 1962. Iowa's entire court system is regularly rated in the very top tier of court systems, state court systems, in reputable national rankings. That judicial system is now under considerable stress that is rooted in severe budget cuts over the last several years, some of the institutional responses to those cuts, and the results of the most recent judicial retention elections. If nominated and selected, I believe I would be in a position to try to help the branch meet its challenges in a number of ways, some of which I will highlight as follows. Number one, we must rebuild and strengthen the relationships within the judicial branch and with the public, the bar, and the legislature. Two, we need to increase outreach and attempts to educate the public regarding the critical role of our courts in society and our system of government. Three, we need to continue with EDMS, or the Electronic Data Management System. One of the committees involved with that I've been fortunate enough to serve on over the last several years that's been involved in the design and the implementation of EDMS. And we definitely need to continue with that work. It surely holds great promise in making our courts both more accessible and more efficient. Next, I would, if nominated and selected, I would keep chambers in my home county courthouse, and I think that that is a benefit that flows both ways. I think it both benefits the Supreme Court, and it clearly also benefits the local districts and the court systems who have sitting justices within those districts and counties. If nominated and selected, I believe there are some aspects of my background and experience that would help me to most effectively serve the judicial branch as a justice of the Supreme Court. First, I've had the opportunity to have been involved in a varied set of professional experiences. First, as a practicing lawyer, I have been involved in criminal cases as a full-time prosecutor and also defending such cases, also involving murder cases on both sides. I've been involved in a significant number of family law cases and also civil cases representing both plaintiffs and defendants, including many complex multi-party cases. I've also been involved in representing a small city and in defending cities and counties in litigation. Secondly, as a district court judge, I have regularly been involved in all types of law and legal proceedings. And having spent more than a decade as a trial judge, this has given me an opportunity to understand and appreciate both how appellate legal decisions and administrative policies play out on the ground and how they affect the operation of the trial court and the lives of the public that we serve. I've also been involved in outreach and teaching, both in terms of public speaking. We, for several years, ran something called the People's Law School in the 7th District that involved teaching the public about various aspects of the court system. I'm presently coaching a high school mock trial team, and I've been regularly involved in judging at the junior high, high school, college, and law school level. I've also been fortunate enough to be involved in the National Judicial College in helping to teach new district court judges that come from all over the country, and I've been involved in those are 2-week courses, and I've been involved in, I believe, 3 of those. All of these, I believe, have provided valuable opportunities to help me reach out and to educate both the public and other judges, and I would hope that this would continue and be expanded. I will also tell you that I will remain active in my community, as active as I am able to be as a district court judge. I see no reason why that would change as long as you stay within the ethical strictures that I'm presently under as a district court judge. I believe I've also demonstrated a capacity for independent thinking and collegiality, and I'd like to just touch on the collegiality in my district, which is the 7th District in eastern Iowa. We have a long tradition of fostering collegiality among our judges, and it's given me a strong appreciation for the benefits of that collegiality, which I would hope to bring to the collaborative decisions that would be involved in my work on the Iowa Supreme Court if I were selected. In regards to legal analysis and writing, there I would simply hope to fuse the highest standards of legal scholarship and writing with all of the practical wisdom I could bring to bear on whatever the issues are that are at hand. I'm firmly committed, as I have been as a district court judge, to in every case follow the law wherever it leads, without fear or favor to any litigant, party, or group. If nominated and selected, I am confident that I would be in a position to hit the ground running and would approach all of my duties with the same work ethic and enthusiasm that I've always tried to bring to my work in the district court. I would also hope to bring to the position a sense of humor and a sense of proportion, both of which are, of course, indispensable to any important undertaking. Finally, I can assure you that if I am nominated and selected, that I would approach all of my duties and responsibilities with all of the gravity that they demand, but in doing so, I would never in that process take myself too seriously. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Cleve. Let's start on Mr. Holmes' side of the table. Any questions?
Thank you for your application, Judge Cleve. I know from talking to other district court judges, it seems as if they are encountering more and more people coming into their courts without attorneys, without legal representation. I'm wondering if you've given any thought to ways in which the Supreme Court in particular, or just the judicial system in general, might move forward in making sure that people have adequate legal representation for their needs.
Well, in terms of some of the what has been termed pro se or self-represented litigant issues, there is a committee that's actively involved with forms to make certain legal procedures easier for people to do on their own. It's always preferable, of course, to try to have those people represented by lawyers to the extent possible. And that is something that can be addressed hopefully at the state level and also on an individual county and city level. And I've certainly seen it done both ways, but it's absolutely clear that that's a critical need that must be addressed. I think both of them are, because we are going to have self-represented litigants. There's just no question about it. And we have to do something to make the process easier for them, particularly in the more standard and routinized types of cases.
I'm sorry, I was yawning. That's terrible. Mrs. Redenbaugh.
Yes. Judge, thanks for traveling to Storm Lake to visit with me earlier this month, and thanks for having your name in the pile of applicants. I guess I have a couple of things I'm thinking about. In that pool of 60 applicants, we have some trial attorneys that look really qualified and judges that look really qualified, but I'd like you to talk to me about what the district judge might bring to the court that the trial attorneys might not, and also then how to distinguish among those 12 or 15 district judges that have applied for the job, and what you bring that the others might not.
Well, as far as the first part of your question, I clearly I think both types of applicants are certainly needed on the Supreme Court. I do, however, think that someone who has trial court experience does bring some assets to the table, so to speak, in applying for a position such as this. And part of it really is just an understanding of how the system really works in the trial court. And I thought I understood that as a lawyer, but I quickly disabused myself of that notion when I became a district court judge, because you don't see how all of the parts really work together and how the different types of cases that are involved in the trial court, how they all work. And I think that's something that a trial court judge can bring to the table in this type of a process. I also think that it puts you in the mindset where you have ceased to become an advocate. And I think that is something also that is a benefit, in that you've already gone through that process of not being an advocate anymore. And I think that's something that you can bring to a position such as this, that takes some time to develop. In regards to the last part of your question, that to me is the much harder question. And I'm not really sure what I can tell you about that. Many of those people are my colleagues. I have the highest respect for them. And I think it is something where you just have to look at the mix of qualities that they bring and that I would bring, and that I've tried to outline as far as my application today.
I know you have your hand up, Guy, but anybody else down there? Guy, go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm abusing you. I apologize.
All right, I can take it. Judge, thank you for applying, and I wanted to follow up on a comment you made in your opening remarks. You spoke to the true facts that the Iowa judiciary is recognized across the country as one of the top 4 or 5 in the entire United States, including our Supreme Court. I don't think I've seen any similar rankings of the Iowa legislature that put them anywhere near the rankings of this third branch. And I don't mean that disrespectful to the legislature, but I'd like to know from you, as you seek this position, do you have any answers, recommendations, skill sets that would allow you to convince the legislature they must maintain this asset that exists?
I can tell you I would approach that task with enthusiasm, and I think it has to be done on a number of levels. I think there have to be relationships that are developed. I think obviously you have to have the data and the information to be able to convince them of that, and also convince them, and I think this is critical, that this branch has already suffered tremendous cuts in personnel as the result of some good husbanding of resources after the last economic issue or problem that we had at around 2001. And we suffered for that because there was nowhere to go but down in terms of the numbers of employees. And I think that needs to be also reinforced and emphasized.
Thank you, Judge.
Any questions on this side of the table? Mr. Fitzgibbons?
Thank you, Justice Wiggins. Good afternoon, Judge. Thanks for coming all the way up to Esterville. I enjoyed our visit. Let's talk about a couple of things. Geography is an important issue, I think, but I want to be sure it's put in the proper context. To make a suggestion that someone such as yourself, who's from eastern Iowa, where there are no justices on the Supreme Court at the current time, to suggest that geography is a strong suit for you, it would be doing a disfavor to the credit in your background, your training, your experience. Having said that, though, I want to be sure that there's a full analysis of this geography issue, because among many considerations, I think it should be one, and I want to know if you share that opinion, if you think I'm all wet, or where you stand.
I think it is a factor. I don't think it should be determinative, but I think it is an important factor, and not just for eastern Iowa, but for other areas of the state as well. And I think it goes back to what I had just lightly touched upon earlier about the benefits of having justices who are officed or chambered around the state, because I think it both benefits the court, and I think it clearly benefits the local courts to have such an individual in the area, even if it's not in your county, if it's in your district or in an adjacent district. I think that the benefits of that are substantial.
You know, I think a lot of people that may be looking in don't realize that there is a distinct culture from county to county in the legal world, in the services the courts provide from county to county. You're in an area where you do serve some rural counties, is that not correct?
That is correct.
Tell me what your reaction is, what your experience is on the distinction between even the culture perhaps in Davenport and Scott County and some of the rural counties in your district.
It varies in terms of some issues of formality, in terms of how things get done. Having said that, our district is is a little bit unusual in that it's pretty compact. And we have 3 urban counties, and our 2 other counties actually are in, I believe, the top quarter of the counties by population. So we actually have a little bit more of a cohesive unit as a district than many other districts do. So the upshot being you don't see necessarily wide discrepancies in practice between those counties.
Thank you.
Anybody else in this set of table? Ms. Dixon?
Good afternoon, Judge, and thank you again for putting your name into this list of very qualified applicants. If I could just ask you to touch on the administrative issues a little bit as a Supreme Court Justice, and what experience you've had in the district court administratively that might contribute to your service on the Supreme Court.
Well, we certainly deal with administrative issues all the time. It may not be in a formal sense, but in terms of helping the district to run and dealing with personnel issues and dealing with financial issues, certainly helping to determine how best to use what resources are available. I think I've had that kind of experience. I can't cite you to any particular administrative panel that I've been on, but I certainly think I've had a lot of practical experience in that regard.
In the district court, you're faced with decisions in terms of the expenditure of funds.
Correct.
Correct. All right, thank you,
Every
Judge.
day.
Anybody else on that side? I have a question for you. Judge Alpers is a member of our Judicial Council as Chief Judge of the district. Can you tell me how she brings back and takes to the council things from your district that are important to you, or just meetings to talk about it? Can you explain that to me?
Judge Alpers is a very fine chief judge of our district, and to the extent she's able, she has shared everything, I believe, with us that she's been allowed and able to, and she's been very effective in bringing that information back to us, and then I believe conveying information from us to the Supreme Court as well. And I've seen that by way of her memoranda, I should say, and other things that she's provided to us, both in writing and orally, that lead me to that conclusion.
By someone who's not involved in the Judicial Council, but sort of one of the constituents of it, is there a better way that we as a court can deal with that process that'll make it more effective, maybe?
I can't tell you I have any particular roadmap for that, other than trying to open it up and keep the discussions and the issues that are addressed as open as possible, so that they can be shared with the rest of the district court judges and court staff.
I think we've been sending out the minutes for the last few years. Do you get those?
I believe so.
So you get those on a regular basis?
I believe so.
Are there other ways that you think that the Supreme Court may be more effective in it, meeting the needs? You know, we're a big state. I mean,
Yes.
I've driven it from end to end, top to bottom, corner to corner, and you know, sometimes we're here and you're there. Do you have any ideas? You know, we use Judicial Council. We have other committees. Do you have any other ideas that may help us meet the needs of the folks in the outlying areas and other areas of the state where we may not get to all the time? Especially Emmett County, because I guess we haven't been there yet.
Glad to have you, Judge.
Well, I think one of the ideas that I just heard Justice Katie talk about recently that I think is a terrific idea is to take oral arguments out into the state and to take them not just to law schools, but take them to private colleges, local government buildings, so that you can take them all over. And I think that also provides an opportunity to take it a step further and try to build some events around those oral arguments that would bring in the public and local community leaders and use them as an educational opportunity.
Yeah, we have some plans to do it, but we want to see who the other 3 people are going to have to drive around the state with us.
Having recently driven around the state, I certainly agree with you that it is a large state.
Does anybody else have any other questions? We really appreciate your application and giving us your time and coming to talk to us individually. It's just a credit to the Iowa judiciary that we have people like you serving the people of the state of Iowa every day. And we really appreciate it, and we wish you the best of luck.
Okay. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Judge.
Appreciate it.